Everything's under control. Sorry, folks.
Okay, so this was this is interesting. This is from Reddit, and it says here, third Disney theme park at Anaheim in pre-design phase. So there is apparently, and then apparently, if you can go ahead, Ray, I think you have the it's like a construction like permit filed. If you can kind of make that bigger, so
this guy right here.
Yeah, so it's labeled Disneyland theme park, third theme park, and the price tag, the valuation is really, really low, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it seems to be a placeholder valuation, to be honest with you, from all the evidence that I've seen.
Placeholder, okay, and this is basically like a permit for a third theme park.
Yes, this is kind of what this looks like, or at least like a bid, and I guess there's some additional maybe contacts. Okay, well, can't get access to those, but there might be some additional stuff. You see, you have like architect, mechanical engineer, owner, structural engineer. Like, this has something to this. I don't quite know, honestly, what the hell this is. Like, I don't know if it's like a permit that's being looked at by the city of Anaheim, because it says pre-design. Do you necessarily need a permit or even a bid to start that? Pre-design, to me, that kind of says blue sky. And from what I understand, at least a number of years ago, there was a room in 1401 Flower Street dedicated solely to ideas, blue sky elements, whatever, for a third gate at the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim. I mean, that's what the whole room was dedicated towards. And so, from what I understand, this has been kind of in blue sky for quite a bit here. But is this it? I really don't know. I suppose I can see how to get some of this redacted information unredacted and kind of see what this is more so all about. But it's an interesting thing, and credit to the guys at Reddit for actually finding this, because it does get the speculation amped up considerably.
Well, and I'm curious too how, because the game has changed a lot since the Anaheim mayor corruption probe. And maybe, hey, look, maybe there was real consideration pre-corruption probe to do this third park, right? Like with Disneyland Forward, I'm assuming it was going to get approved before. Everyone was kind of assuming that. And maybe there was real momentum in Imagineering and at Disney to get a third park off the ground. And that's why a lot of these kind of like these permits were filed. But, there's always, sometimes there's a lag. Right? Sometimes there's a lag. Sometimes you pay for example, sometimes you'll pay your cell phone bill, right? But then like the past due notice was already in the mail and you get the past due even though you already paid it. And it's something like that. It could be that maybe they really were considering a third park because they thought Disneyland Forward was going to go forward. But that was before the Anaheim corruption thing. And now it's kind of things have changed.
And this is kind of an interesting point, and to kind of relate it to the point you're suggesting right here, regardless of the Anaheim corruption probe or whatever happens to Disneyland Forward, even though we say it's very unlikely that it goes forward at all, this is kind of outside of it. And the reason I say that is because the area that the old strawberry fields, or where the Toy Story parking lot now resides, right? That area is zoned currently, right now, for theme park use. That's what it is. I heard some other people, not going to name names, but some people said, oh, well, they can't do anything unless Disneyland Forward goes through. Not true.
It's not true.
The old strawberry fields, where the Toy Story lot is currently, that is currently zoned for that, regardless of any approval or additional approvals from the city council. That's why when you saw the Disneyland Forward kind of concept art and they showed kind of like a resort in that area, they were showing that they wanted it for mixed use, not just limited to theme park space, but could be anything. And they were giving you an idea, hey, if we did have that ability, we could build this. The likelihood of them actually doing that, I never thought was actually a thing, because that's the most real estate in a single location that you're ever going to have in Anaheim. Why would you waste on a resort? It makes much more sense to actually use this for theme park use and maybe have some resorts on the periphery that actually make use of it on Lake Westcott. But that right there, they can go forward with this regardless of the status of Disneyland Forward.
That's fascinating. And a lot of people really got married. A lot of content creators, not going to name names, but a lot of content creators got real married to the art. Well, you know what? It's obviously a hotel and a downtown Disney, and that's what it's going to be.
Right.
But like you said, Dre, it's already zoned, though, for a theme park. Correct. So it makes sense if Disneyland Forward as an initiative was to sell to the city of Anaheim for more zoning, more flexibility.
Yes.
It would make sense that they wouldn't have concept art for a theme park. They already have the zoning for that. They don't need to sell that to Anaheim. What they might need to sell to Anaheim is a hotel. Maybe it's not zoned for that. Maybe they need to zone more retail. So they're basically just trying to get all the zoning possibilities and flexibility approved that they can. And that's why you saw the big push in that Toy Story lot for the retail and hotel stuff, because they don't need the theme park zoning already. Yeah. They already have it, right?
And, so, and to tell you,
to that concept art means nothing in regard to what we might actually get.
100%. And to tell you how strict the zoning currently is, the Toy Story lot that currently resides on, where it is on the old Strawberry Fields, right? It had to get special approval. And only a temporary approval, by the way, for for a parking lot itself. They had to get zoning approval just to make it a parking lot because it was zoned specifically for theme park space. And, maybe this goes into that. Now, I will say, it's interesting, just to speculate even further. You can't really build a new... There are some barriers to building a new theme park out in Anaheim. And I think the biggest one, it's parking. The parking situation for the Disneyland Resort, they're underwater right now.
Oh, big time.
So there's no way that you can actually add a third gate unless you get that parking first. And maybe this is kind of a pretext to get the structure that they originally had planned, the Eastern Gateway structure, built finally. It's like, hey, look, listen. Okay, maybe you don't want to go forward with Disneyland Forward, but if we want to expand, and the only way to do that at all is to get a structure. Can we at least get a structure approved? Maybe this is kind of leaning towards that because, I guess it would kind of have to. Like, you have to have a structure first before you can open up a third gate. There's just no way. Like I said, they're underwater now. And the only way that's remedied at all, and even as like a thoroughfare or access point for this third gate, it would have to be a third structure.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Disney, it's kind of like Jurassic Park. I'm going to go Universal here, but it definitely applies to Disney. Mm-hmm. Life finds a way. And equally so, Disney finds a way, right? Like when Disney got knocked down with the Eastern Gateway and that fourth hotel, they found a way. They decided, okay, we're going to take the Pinocchio parking lot, the surface level parking, and make a Pixar and Pals structure. Right. They found a way to kind of do it without having to deal with that. So what you're saying, Dre, is completely plausible, where it's like, okay, we're probably not going to get approved for Disneyland Forward. So what we'll work with is what we know we can get away with.
Right.
We'll build the parking structure in that land over on Harbor. Maybe we'll work with the local businesses so there's not like a bridge over it or whatever. We'll compromise. We'll get that structure built. We can do the third theme park over there in the Toy Story lot because that's already zoned. That's a great point, Dre. Work with what you already have. They've done it before with the Pixar Pal parking structure.
They did.
So Disneyland Forward proper might not be approved, but there might be a little bit of workaround there, which is fascinating. That's an excellent point you brought up there, Dre. Excellent point.
I think so. And to go along with your assertion here,
life finds a way.
There you go. I got the drop there for you. But no, look, listen. I think you're right. I mean, look, you do the things that you can, and I think a third theme park, it's already there. I think there's some momentum for expansion. Maybe not in like right now, right? Given the capex issues experienced by its company right now and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, hey, look, listen. Like you said, what can we get away with now? What can we actually do now without having to, I don't know, gussy up to the city council, right? We can do something like this, and I think it's a fair point. What actually what that third gate entail? Who knows? But it's kind of an interesting prospect. That valuation that was on there, like I said, I think that was placeholder. It would be far more expensive, much more. We're talking billions of dollars, but even that, I mean, that would provide a huge boon, so that the Anaheim constituency, maybe who's watching this, can kind of get their heads around. That would add a huge amount of economic investment to your community for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And before we close it out, I do want to say, if anyone from Chapek's team is by any chance watching this, not likely, but hey, you never know. Do it right the first time. Don't make the same mistake Michael Eisner made with DCA, with California Adventure. You always spend more having to fix something than if you just put the money in the first time. Right. So don't go in there and build a half-ass park on a shoestring budget that you have to fix and pump another $1 billion later on. Do it right the first time. You'll save money. Fans will be happy. The area will benefit from it. Just do it right the first time. Please do not repeat the mistakes of other, I don't know what we call it, administrations.
Yeah, exactly. Other eras, I guess. Yeah. Hey, look, listen. I'm glad you brought that up, because right now, I mean, we're only days removed from the 10-year anniversary of not just Cars Land, but also of Buena Vista Street, right? They opened up on pretty much the same day to the public, and it was part of the rededication for California Adventure. And one of the interesting things of note about that whole redo is the first year that California Adventure and Buena Vista Street were actually in place for guests to visit, they reached their 7 million guests a year milestone. A milestone, by the way, that they were expecting to hit on day one back in 2001, right? They expected that the first year that they would hit 7 million. They never did. And the only time that they actually did was when they put in the money. So please, Chapek, and this goes beyond just, a third gate in Anaheim. This goes to Splash Mountain, it goes to Tomorrowland, it goes to all these other projects that we've heard are kind of in the pipeline here. You got to shell out the money. You got to shell out the cash. Do it right. And I think the fans will reward you for it.
Time to grow up. 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 Time to grow up.